Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the nutrition detective around these parts. I remembered my lights today. This is, June 24th, 2022. And we have some fun stuff that actually Grant Genereux brought to my attention about the connections between the vampire legends and autism behaviors and eating liver, which would then connect things to vitamin A and copper. And then we'll go and we'll start connecting vitamin A and copper to autism. So we're going to have fun. I'm not going over testimonial today because I wanted to get to more questions. So I'm just going to save some time on that. So there's an interesting personality on the internet who sent me an email saying I rip off Grant Genereux and I just steal his work. And it's an interesting comment to say because I give credit to Grant all the time. And he and I were emailing recently, and he's the one who gave me this information. And I went and I specifically asked him, I said, hey, Grant, do you mind if I use this on my YouTube with full attribution to you? And he was like, sure, go ahead, no problem. So anyway, before anybody ever accuses me of stealing from Grant Genereux again, if they were so out there that they didn't understand professional friendships and that Grant doesn't want to be on YouTube. So I am. So here I am. Anyway, so let me read this email from Grant. Let me set some context here. I had said that I didn't want basically I was referring to liver eaters as cultists. And their behavior really is very cult-like. Some of you may recall, if and when you used to eat liver, that you may have been very protective of this behavior, and anybody who didn't do it was just an idiot, and they were missing out on all these nutrients and I mean, I was there. I used to make raw liver and blueberry smoothies to try to choke that garbage down. So I get it. A lot of people on a lot of weird diets become very arrogant and very protective and very demeaning to anyone who doesn't follow or agree with their approaches. And so many of you may recall your behavior back when you did these things. So I had referred to them as cultists, and I totally agree with that. I'm not. That's just the way it is. So Grant said, referring to the liver eaters as being in a cult is not too far off the mark. Here's a bit of trivia regarding the legend of vampires you may find interesting. As I wrote in one of my blog posts, many of the women who have contacted me were eating liver. They very commonly say they now have skin rashes, lupus, and that they are highly sensitive to the sun also. Almost all comment on their depression and anxiety too. So he put a little header here. It says vampires and autism. Continuing. I don't think this was a copy paste off a blog post. I tried to find Grant's blog post. I looked to see if he had anything on vampires on his blog. He didn't. I couldn't find it, at least. So here we go. Vampires and autism. This is still Grant. Did you know that vampires are not just of medieval myth and legend? They were a group of people in Transylvania 300 years ago that were in this cult. They believed that drinking blood enhanced their life force. But important detail to know is that they did not just drink blood, rather they routinely ate raw, blood-drenched liver. Thus, the part of the legend about them having blood dripping from their teeth. Interesting, right? But today, the same issues in the skin reacting to sunlight exist for women with lupus. And it was very much the same for both myself and the woman I wrote about in one of my update blog posts. But there's even more to it. Many adults today who are not sick, right, now think that the sun has gotten hotter because they can't spend as much time in the sun without burning as compared to when they were younger. But it's the opposite. The sun is not hotter. there is actually now less sunlight getting to the surface of Earth than there was 20 years ago. Clearly, then, it's because their skin is loaded up with the highly efficient light-absorbing retinoids that are causing their increased sun sensitivity. Next, did you know that many parents with autistic kids report that their kid can't look at themselves in a mirror? Here's an example of one such blog post. And I put this blog post is in the comment area, my comment area of this video. The title, Why Looking at Oneself in the Mirror is a Difficult Task for the Autistic Child. And I put the link to that blog post. I'm not going to read it. Continuing from Grant, of course, many of the autistic kids are both sunlight sensitive and have eczema too. It was the same for me and the liver-eating woman I wrote about in one of my blog posts. Her husband told me that she refused to look at herself in the mirror too. She claimed that she now looked hideous. For me, I too definitely did not want to look at myself in the mirror when I was in my poisoned state. It's a bit hard to describe, but there was a very powerful force there blocking me. Thinking back on it, it was some weird combination of anxiety and a strong aversion to seeing my quickly aging face. But it was almost like the person looking back at me from the mirror was not so much a reflection, but more like it was something some stranger. Thus, the social anxiety type reaction. I no longer have that condition. So I think the legend of vampires not being able to see themselves in the mirror has just been taken too literally. It's not that they could not see themselves in the mirror, it was that they did not want to see themselves in the mirror. It's the same today with young kids with autism, women with autoimmune diseases, and others. Clearly, there's a very powerful neurological toxin inducing this extreme anxiety, and it's not just from eating liver either. Rather obviously, it's very pervasive. It is causing people to develop personalities exhibiting profound social indifference and seclusion. We now have over 300 years of evidence as to what the real reason is. Vitamin A is like humanity's kryptonite, but on a 20 to 30 year time delay fuse. Grant. So let's go through since I like to do research, let's go through some of the research connecting this. So we have that link to the autistic child. So vitamin A and autism. There will always be the people who try to say that, autism is a vitamin A deficiency disorder. One of the links I put in the comments of this video, why don't I have that link up anymore? Anyway, so an interesting paper about autism and aldehydes, the pivotal role of aldehyde toxicity in autism spectrum disorder. I'll put that in the chat too. The pivotal. If you don't know what that word is, you might want to look it up. It means extremely critical. That can change the direction, pivot. It can change the direction of things. Aldehydes. What people will talk about? Acetaldehyde, which is a byproduct of drinking alcohol in your body. It's a breakdown product. Acetaldehyde is more toxic than alcohol. There's formaldehyde, which is a byproduct of methanol, which is in lots of foods. Oh, tomatoes, actually quite high in methanol that turns into formaldehyde when you cook them. This is why people, when they used to make tomato sauces, would simmer them for hours with the lid cracked, because that would cook off much of the formaldehyde. Why? The only way you use brown bananas, which actually make lots of aldehydes, which is why when you eat too brown a banana, you might get a stomach ache or you might not feel good because of all the aldehydes. What's the only way that people will use old bananas, right? Overly ripe bananas. They put them into banana bread. That's the common way, right? They cook off the aldehydes. All this makes sense when you understand it. So, nobody talks about retinaldehyde. The pivotal role of aldehydes in autism spectrum disorder. Common symptom of vitamin A toxicity is called photosensitivity, which is excessive sensitivity to the sun in your skin, easy burning. What would happen to people who avoided the sun a lot? They'd get very pale. Oh, did you know another side effect of vitamin A toxicity is anemia? Anemia. Do you know what color people's skin gets when they're anemic? They get very pale. Sensitivity to sunlight. And people's eyes are very sensitive to the sun too. Those of you who have done the program and gotten a lot of the vitamin A out of you, you notice that your eyes are way less sensitive to the sun and your skin is way less sensitive to the sun. Well, somebody who's vitamin A toxic would be much more sensitive to the sun. They avoid the sun. They don't have any kind of tan, so they get extra pale. One side effect. I mean, so here's the interesting thing to know about vitamin A toxicity. As it damages the liver to different extents and potentially with different genetic types, like this vampire thing was in one area of the world mainly, if there was a certain genetics going on there, they could have been the type that gets more anemic. There's most people get iron overload from vitamin A toxicity, but a small percent of the people I work with, probably 5% or less, they go strongly anemic. And this is noted in the literature, anemia with hypervitaminosis A. So let's say you have this genetic type that goes anemic when they have it. What might they do to feel better? They might eat blood-soaked liver. And they get a lot of aldehydes. So let's just head into this other part here. I did a search here on vampires and autism. This is just a DuckDuckGo search. I'm just going to read some of the titles of these articles. Autistic vampires discuss. Vampires on the Asperger's and Autism Forum. Another one, vampires are autism culture, and you can't change my mind. Next one, I'm not autistic, I'm a vampire. Psychology Today published an article on vampire personality disorder. Psychiatrists have long been aware of certain cases in which someone has a delusional notion, like cultists, delusional notion that he or she is a vampire and therefore needs blood. Vampires may have been real people with this blood disorder in ScienceDaily.com, and they're saying it's protoporphyria, which someday I'll probably get enough connections to lay that out. So anyway, obviously there's a lot of people connecting autism to vampires. Now, I've connected aldehydes to autism, vitamin A being the biggest aldehyde that nobody knows about. Did you know that carotenoids, the pro-vitamin A type of carotenoids like beta-carotene, do you know that one molecule of beta-carotene splits up into 2 retinaldehydes? That's interesting. Now, let's just go into, let's say, the things that liver is really high in is, well, we have vitamin A and we have copper. Okay. Now, then there's those people out there, very, very misguided, poor people that I feel very sorry for them, who think that copper deficiency is the biggest thing plaguing humanity today. They are wrong. I have been over hundreds of blood tests and hair tests, and copper deficiency is something I don't see. And when I have people who seem to have slightly low copper on blood tests, they don't have any problems from that. And as I help them to fix themselves, oftentimes their copper actually comes up on the blood test, even though I'm giving them things to antagonize copper, which the pro-copper people would say, you shouldn't take copper antagonists because you'll mess up your copper. And they're just completely wrong. If you guys haven't seen my blood test video where I go over my testosterone level of basically 900, where I've been antagonizing copper for, I don't know, 10 years. My copper is not low. They're trying to people are trying to poison you by putting zinc and copper into supplements and telling you you have to balance your zinc and copper. They're wrong. Anybody talking about copper as if copper is a positive thing is wrong. Okay? Simple as that. Let's go over this one. So they'll say, don't take zinc. The pro-copper people, don't take zinc. Make sure you get lots of copper from food and potentially from supplements, especially super expensive copper bound to niacinamide. Yeah, that fancy copper that everybody's out there saying that's bioavailable is just copper bound to niacinamide or nicotinamide. That's it. Why can't your body just do that? Why doesn't it just do that? So let's go over this paper. The plasma zinc to serum, zinc/serum copper ratio, that doesn't seem like the right title, as a biomarker in children with autism spectrum disorders. Let me put this in the links in the chat. Okay. Okay. The frequency of zinc deficiency, copper toxicity, and low zinc/copper ratio in children with autism spectrum disorders, ASDs, may indicate decrement in metallothionein system functioning. A retrospective review of plasma zinc, serum copper, and zinc to copper ratio was performed on data from 230 children with autistic disorder, pervasive developmental disorder, NOS, and Asperger's syndrome. The entire cohort's mean or average zinc level was 77.2 micrograms per deciliter. So just remember 77.2. Mean copper level was 131.5 micrograms per deciliter. And mean or average zinc to copper ratio was 0.608, which was below the 0.7 cutoff of the lowest 2.5% of healthy children. The plasma zinc/serum copper ratio may be a biomarker of heavy metal, particularly mercury, toxicity in children with ASDs. Well, that doesn't, okay, so they're trying to blame, so that's it, that was it. They're trying to take excess copper. Do you see how they just tried to turn it into something else? They won't say anything bad about copper, except they do say copper toxicity at the start, but then they'll say, oh, it's maybe a biomarker of mercury toxicity. I'm sure the autistic kids have mercury toxicity because their liver's all messed up and they can't get rid of it. But let's talk about this. Let me just talk about, I go over my ranges in my labs video, which I highly suggest you go watch. It's one of the last, maybe the most recent non-live stream video I put on this channel. Where do I want zinc? I want zinc, plasma zinc, between 100 and 135. Okay? These kids averaged 77.2. In my world, that's a pretty significant zinc deficiency. Okay. Their average copper level was 131.5. Where do I work to get my clients to and help them eliminate all sorts of health issues along the way? I want them between 75 and 90. So the average level of copper in these autistic kids was 40 points higher than I want. And I can tell you that in the relationship between those two labs, one of the key things that I look for first is getting the zinc, the plasma zinc level above the serum copper level. These kids were 55-ish points apart with the copper on top. And they have autism. Crazy. So here's another paper called Copper and Neurotoxicity in Autism Spectrum Disorder. Then let me go get one of my favorite papers. The neurotoxicity of vitamin A and retinoids. for those of you out there who have decided that vitamin A is a good thing and that copper is a good thing, you might want to go and look at the research about neurotoxicity of those things and realize that they accumulate in your system, which means that if you simply take in more per day than you excrete, you are slowly accumulating toxic substances in your liver, in your brain, in your tissues, all of it. And you might start behaving strangely. Not that that's hard to tell on the internet these days, because everybody's behaving strangely on the internet. But if you'd like to behave less strangely, depression, anxiety, these things, classic copper toxicity, classic. Maybe that's why these copper toxic people like to call my office to try to tell me how wrong I am. Please don't bother. Really, save your breath. You're just neurotoxic. It's okay. You could fix it. You just have to realize you're wrong. Okay, so let's get into the questions. I think that was it. So yeah, absolutely. Copper toxicity, neurotoxic, vitamin A toxicity, well known to be neurotoxic. The symptoms of it all match up. What if vampires were a real thing, but not the real thing that you thought? And don't those carnivores oftentimes, especially the nose to tail, don't they love to take pictures of themselves like biting into animal flesh? Isn't that kind of a weird little fetish that they have to show everybody how savage they are? I mean, I eat a lot of meat. Don't get me wrong. And I've eaten raw meat. I used to eat raw lamb leg steaks, and I thought they were great with some balsamic vinegar and some salt on them. I don't do it anymore, but would I do it again? Yeah, that's not a problem. Do I need to take pictures for Instagram with it? No, I don't. It's kind of weird behavior. So let's go into this. The houses we live in says, I have PTSD. How is that related to the liver and vitamin A? And do you have any suggestions to help? Okay. First of all, for anybody who asks me, do I have suggestions to help a certain health condition? Yes. Join the Love Your Liver program, start doing it, and work with me on getting your minerals straight. That is the same suggestion. I do not have magical protocol. I don't need protocols for specific diseases other than the individual work that I do with people on specific conditions. That is how I do things. I don't have to have treated a condition to basically where a person's symptoms show up in their body. Could be their past nutrition, could be their toxin exposure, could be genetics, could be whatever. Could just be that they've had an injury in that area. And so things like especially calcium tends to accumulate there, just like rust accumulates where you've damaged the finish on your car. So where these problems show up in the body, what I do with people when they're working with me individually and I see a certain pattern, like for an example, when I see eye problems or skin problems, I immediately start thinking zinc deficiency. And I talk to the person who's in the consult with me. I'm telling them about how much zinc they could go up to, and they're going to experiment with it and see how much zinc their body tolerates at a certain time. But I tell them, based on your condition, whether it's eyes or skin or both, you're not going to want to mess up the zinc. Get this right, because this is going to be really, really important. Now, do I know what zinc dose they're going to tolerate well? No, because some of you out there who have taken zinc, especially zinc picolinate, I don't waste time on any other types of zinc. If you're wasting your time and money on other types of zinc, just stop. Zinc picolinate is it. Don't bother with other types. It's the type I use in the Keystone Minerals. If you want to know what Keystone Minerals are, go to the store, nutritiondetective.com, and go to the store there. When people ask me, is there a multi of something that I could take? If you wanted to try something that's like a multi, Keystone Minerals is it. I take it daily. Many people on the program take it daily. 1 pill a day is a very good dose for most people. Do I say all people? No. You can't make one product that works for everybody. That's impossible. So, PTSD. Here, let's go PTSD, retinoic PubMed. Oh, wait, let me, no, I have this on my research forum. Sorry, let me go find that. nutritionrestored.com/blog-forum. So here, I'll put the testimonial, which I think has some of the research in it. Had a U.S. military veteran, had PTSD, did my stuff, did the testing and the treatment. Testing, not guessing, then addressing with the minerals. And he now says he does not have PTSD. So that testimonial is now in the chat. I believe I put research in here too. Ah, yes, a gene for PTSD. So let me put all these links in here. Gene for PTSD. Seriously, were that many people coming home from World War II with PTSD that the genetics changed between then and now? Wait, wasn't Grant just talking about a pervasive toxin a pervasive neurological toxin that must be affecting everyone worse? Because if you haven't noticed, society is going bat crazy, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to curse less here on this channel. They're going bonkers. What is affecting their brain? Why are people in my program and myself becoming less agitatable, more confident, less anxious, less depressed, less agitatable? Maybe it's what we're putting in our body. So in this article, A Gene for PTSD, researchers have found a gene that can increase or decrease the risk of PTSD. I'm just going to read the bolded parts in this article. They found a statistically significant association with a variant of the retinoic acid orphan receptor A gene, which was unfamiliar to them at this time. RORA has never been linked to PTSD before, to our knowledge, said Miller, the study's lead investigator. But when we read up on it, we found that it had previously been linked to other disorders such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, bipolar disorder, autism, and depression. In other words, it was a psychiatrically relevant gene. One of the major roles of RORA is protecting brain cells from the damaging effect of injury and disease and possibly traumatic brain injury. And then people are going to say, well, it's a gene for retinoic acid, so it must mean it needs to be activated by it, and that's so retinoic acid is helpful. Oh my goodness, just go look at the psychological side effects of ATRA, which is retin-A, and Accutane, isotretinoin. Your body takes the vitamin A that you eat and turns it into those things. Vitamin A ruins your brain. And then Anthony Mawson wrote a whole paper on Gulf War illness, unifying hypothesis for a continuing health problem. Gosh. There's some liver problems. And he basically goes over the cholestasis model and how liver injury is spilling bile into the blood, and vitamin A is in that bile, and that is causing all the problems. So people go, well, we'll go for illness. They were overexposed to all sorts of toxic things. Yes, they were storing them in their liver and putting them into their bile and dumping them back out into the blood. It's the same mechanism. It all fits in the model. So they're saying this gene is protective against something, and they named it retinoic acid. That doesn't mean you want retinoic acid in there, folks. It doesn't mean that they're right about the receptors at all. Think about this. Ever since medicine has gotten supposedly better and better at analyzing cells and receptors and all of this stuff, has humanity gotten better or sicker? Another example. Since humanity has started supplementing vitamin D up the wazoo, have people's health gotten better or worse? Since we've started eating the rainbow, has people's health gotten better or worse? It's all going downhill, folks. You better do something different. So, PTSD, it's a toxicity state. Can trauma cause? Oh, we'll go over this next week. We're going to go over, for those of you who want to do research ahead of time, go look up adverse childhood events and liver injury and liver disease. So ACE, ACE, but look up adverse childhood events. They call them ACEs, and liver injury or cholestasis or liver disease. Do those search. Have fun. This can be why where people go, well, I never really took that much vitamin A. I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got to this spot. But they had like a super traumatic childhood that causes liver injury, which causes bile to leak into your blood, which means you don't detox well ever since that starts. It's a negative cycle and you just get worse and worse and worse. If you were born with jaundice, you started even earlier with your liver disease. And all that means is that you can't get rid of toxins as well as other people. So if you can't get rid of toxins, even if you have a quote unquote normal amount of toxins coming in, you build it up. Kind of screwed from the beginning. It sucks. It is the way it is. What your job is now is to accept responsibility for where you're at and take action to fix it. There is no magic pill. Too many people out there who learn about vitamin A toxicity and learn about zinc or copper toxicity, they want a magic pill to get out of it. And it's like, no, it's hard work and time. That's it. But when you start, let's say, cleaning up your brain, think about this. Let's say you've got some bad memories up here. We're talking PTSD-ish. Yeah, right. You got some bad memories going on and some bad repeated thinking processes, cycles about this. As we get the toxic stuff out, when you just don't bring up those thoughts as much. It's been said that like something like 90% of the people in jail are hypoglycemics. And they do their crimes when their blood sugar crashes. That's a pretty common, I remember, I forget where I saw that, but just think about it. Think about the people you know who are hypoglycemic. How do they act when their blood sugar's crashing? They go bonkers and they do and they say stuff that they never would otherwise. You take a hypoglycemic and you give them alcohol, and that's bad news. I know I used to be terribly hypoglycemic. And if I had like worked out really hard and I wasn't eating like I should and I had some alcohol, I was a raging asshole. You guys have seen it in other people. You may have seen it in yourself. So your chemistry affects, just think of hypoglycemia, like just think of that, just that simple example. Somebody who's got unstable blood sugar and they just don't eat enough or they don't eat the right things, and how their mood immediately shifts. Now think about if you were constantly toxic. What's that going to do to your behavior? Is it going to make you think about things over and over, ruminating? Right? When people who are copper toxic, they lay down to go to sleep and their brain is just running. They're tired but wired, and their brain is just desperately searching for something to grab onto to stress about. Most of you out there know what I'm talking about. The toxicity is driving the mental state. Can you learn things and learn practices to try to reduce this? Of course. But you know what? When you have to think about it, eventually you get tired or you forget. And what happens? Maybe you could keep the bad thoughts away while you worked really hard at it. But once you forget or you get tired, they all come rushing back because it's the chemistry that's driving it. It's not some fault of your of your brain itself. It's the chemistry. It's the toxicity. Okay. So yeah, we got the testimonial on the PTSD, and let me see. I didn't read the testimonial. Let me see. Here we go. Let me just read this testimonial. Quote, "For years, I struggled with the effects of combat-related PTSD, such as insomnia, anxiety, and depression." Interjection here. What do they say that that's commonly associated with? Copper toxicity, vitamin A toxicity. Continuing. "Thank you for providing alternatives to traditional big pharma protocols used by mainstream doctors. Because of your magnesium protocol, I was able to get off hardcore sleep medications and sleep normally without the prescription dependency I had developed. When I reached a breaking point after being exposed to corporate corruption, I knew I needed to get help for PTSD from Afghanistan. However, I realized the Veteran Affairs medical community lacked options and relied too heavily on chemical-based therapy. The simple yet effective anxiety protocol you prescribed allowed me to stabilize and function normally as a husband, father, and begin preparing to return to work while on medical leave. I cannot thank you enough for what a blessing you've been to me." Now, let me also say that this gentleman and his wife had an autistic child who was doing quite well on the approaches that I use. What a weird coincidence. And do I have I don't have protocols. Like when I'm talking to people about how to figure out their zinc dose, I call it the zinc experiment, because it's not is there kind of a protocol to it? Sure. But am I saying to people, am I doing the most ignorant medical approaches that I've ever seen, which is like where, in conventional medicine, they're like, you should take one antidepressant a day. Or in alternative nutrition medicine, they'll say you need to take 30 milligrams of zinc a day. And that's the dose that everybody needs. And you should take 500 milligrams of magnesium. I saw this on Twitter the other day. Everyone should take 500 milligrams of magnesium glycinate a day before bed. And I was like, that's just caveman medicine. What if somebody says, I can't take that? I take magnesium glycinate and I'm bouncing off the walls. And then what does the practitioner usually say? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would that happen? And here I am saying, well, it's not the magnesium that's doing that. It's the glycine. Because glycine in some people is very calming, and in some people it revs them up and they bounce off the walls. Because every mineral supplement you take is two things. There's the mineral and there's what it's bound to. And both of these things have effects, folks. Most practitioners never think twice about the part that's attached to it. They just think about the mineral. They don't think about the other part as being a functional thing that they're asking people to consume. Same thing with taurine. Taurine can be amazing for some people, and taurine can absolutely drive other people bonkers, and they can't sleep and they get anxious. And you know what happens when people come to me and they say, I tried glycine and I didn't feel good, or I tried taurine and I didn't feel good. Should I keep taking it? How much of it should I take? And I go, don't take it. Simple. Or you can try less, cut your dose in half, see how it goes. But usually if people are feeling bad on a certain dose, they need to cut back. And maybe they don't take it at all. Maybe they don't take it yet. It's very simple. But most doctors don't give people the freedom to decide based on their reactions what they should do. Okay. Dom Juan asks, is there anything in specific that I can do to improve brain fog, or with time and a low vitamin A diet, it goes away? Let me just say, my work in the Love Your Liver program at members.nutritiondetective.com, my work is not just a low vitamin A diet. For anybody to say that all I'm advocating here is a low vitamin A diet, they do not understand my work. They do not understand the depth of my work. I'm not just giving people low vitamin A food lists. That is like caveman vitamin A toxicity medicine. We are fixing cholestasis, which I showed in my bloods, how there's less bile in my blood now. We are proof of concept. We are fixing toxic bile in the blood. It is not just a low vitamin A diet. Andrew Baird on Facebook today was posting about how zinc. So I want you to think about this. Just zinc. I talk about zinc a lot, There's other things that are really, really important. And if you go and take the little bit of rope that I'm giving you and you go and you hang yourself with it on zinc, that's not my fault because I give very specific doses of zinc. And then people who are working with me can come to my office hours and get follow-up up to twice a week on how things are going for them. We do things differently around here. But so think about this. Many of you know and have accepted that the soil that we grow things in, so think about it. You are what you eat, and you are what you eat eats. So if the soil is deficient in minerals like zinc, and imagine this, I saw a statistic for China that said that 50% of the soils in China are zinc deficient. Okay, that's China. Do you think you're getting the truth about anything out of China? So if they say 50%, does that mean 75%, 80%, 90%, 100%? Who knows? So if all that soil is deficient in zinc, the plants that are grown in the soil will be deficient in zinc, and the animals that eat those plants will be deficient in zinc. Okay, zinc deficiency is rampant everywhere, even in modern countries, even in people. I see it, zinc deficiency common in people who come to me who are eating a pound or a pound and a half of meat a day. Red meat, the highest food in zinc, and they're eating a pound to a pound and a half of it a day, and they're deficient in zinc. I'm going to tell you that when you start doing the vitamin A detox, the Love Your Liver program, which is more than just vitamin A detox, as I said, just like if you were trying to clean a house, you're going to need more cleaning materials. Makes sense, right? You want to really clean a lot, you need more cleaning materials. Your body, through the detox, is going to need more cleaning materials. You're going to use up zinc more than you were before. Now, for those of you who think food is best, that's all we need, we just need food, and you're going, but on the same breath, you're saying the food doesn't have in it what it's supposed to. Do you see how you just painted yourself into a corner that you're not going to get out of? And then they go, okay, yeah, I understand. Detox uses up more of minerals like zinc. Food doesn't have in it what you need. You know you need more of it, but you're not going to supplement. And you don't test to know either where you're at or if what you're doing is working. You're screwed. There are people who start this approach, whether with me or without, and they don't do what I'm asking. They don't test. They don't take any zinc. They don't do anything. They're just like, I'm just going to do it with food alone. And they start going, wait, I'm getting skin problems. Wait, I'm getting some eye problems. And I'm like, zinc. I have people who work with me. You need to understand this. This is how much zinc you can use. People were not on zinc before. And they start doing the Love Your Liver approach, but they're not they're working with me. And I look at their initial stuff. Sorry, these are people who are working with me. I look at their hair tests. I look at their bloods. I'm the only person out there who looks at blood tests for zinc and copper and hair tests for zinc and copper. People who only look at one of those, completely lost. I showed you that in another video. So I give these people zinc, and sometimes they come back to me on the next test and their zinc is even lower than they started. They were not supplementing zinc before me. I start supplementing them. They are improving, but their zinc goes even lower. And they go, how does that work? I don't understand. And I'm like, we start getting the detox system running by simply taking in less toxins. You start detoxing faster, which means you use up more cleaning materials by simply avoiding the toxins. And then let's say we put in stuff like zinc, selenium, molybdenum, a lot of the basics that are in the keystone minerals. We start putting those in, and then the body starts revving up the detox systems. Can you use up have you ever run out of cleaning materials at your house? Because let's say you had family coming over and you're like, now it's time to clean and we're going to clean up everything. And now you have less cleaning materials than when you started, because you were using them up so fast. This can happen. So when people are doing this kind of blindly, I've seen all sorts of things happen. But yeah, brain fog The first thing I do, I don't remember if it's a 3-part series or a 4-part series in the Love Your Liver program. Potassium deficiency. Getting potassium deficiency addressed is the most important thing that can help like that day with brain fog. Now, potassium in foods, pretty easy. Well, not easy, but simple, but not easy. Potassium in supplements can be amazing. I go over the types of supplements in the program. I go over limits so you don't go and mess yourself up. I've had people completely misinterpret what I've said before. And I had one guy, he thought when I said, you don't need more than 5 grams of potassium a day. Don't go over 5 grams total of potassium a day. You know what he heard me as saying? He took 5 grams of supplemental potassium and then he ate lots of potassium foods on top of that. And I'm not going to sit here and say that this is like completely, you can't ever do anything wrong with these things. He started getting some heart rhythm stuff. And then he told me, because I do follow-ups, I include follow-ups in my program. He said, what's going on? I'm doing the potassium, like you said, which he wasn't. And I'm getting some heart rhythm stuff. What's going on? I said, tell me what you're taking. He's like, well, I'm taking 5,000 in supplemental potassium, like you said. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It was 5,000 max total. And he's like, oh, because I was trying to eat a bunch of potassium on top of the supplement. And I went, no. You messed up. This is why I do the follow-ups. I just had somebody the other day saying with what they were going through, because they were coming to me from a very sick and very sensitive place. They said, if you weren't doing the support that you do in the office hours as part of the package, they're like, I probably would have quit because I had no idea what was going on. And I had no way of knowing how to fix it. But I can come here twice a week and get advice as I need it from you. And this is what we do. I don't just send people off with their mineral prescription and expect them to do this. I fix the people other doctors fail at. That's what I do. I get other practitioners out there watching this. I get your failures. A lot of people really like what I do because I don't make them think that they're crazy or there's some failure because they couldn't take a supplement that even I recommended. I say, that's okay. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but maybe not yet. Like the woman who figured out that 1 milligram of zinc was an amazing thing for her in a day, but 2 milligrams made her feel worse. Most pills come in like 10, 15, maybe 22, maybe 30, maybe 50. Getting 1 milligram of zinc is a difficult thing. But she listened to me and kept going down in dose until she found the right dose. And then she felt much better. Oh, and we got her off her benzodiazepine anti-anxiety medication dependence. That's cool. Oh, and she was an Accutane survivor. We fixed most of her stuff because she's been amazing in listening to my instructions and listening to her body. What I teach a lot of people to do through this is to listen to your own body and your own body's feedback, which most practitioners don't respect at all. I wish more did. So, the Brilliant Cat asks, I'm looking at organic fertilizers for my garden and many of them contain fish meal. Is this safe to put on the garden with all the contaminants in fish these days? I don't know. I've been hearing some interesting thing about fertilizers these days where some people were saying there's enough herbicides in the fertilizers being sold right around now that the plants aren't growing. What a weird coincidence that there's crop shortages. And now the fertilizer sold in like, the hardware stores and stuff like that is showing up with enough herbicides in it to make it so that the plants don't grow. It's almost like there's like a planned destruction going on. I don't know what to say about the fish meal. I mean, I don't know. I would try to compost your own stuff that you know is good. So then if do what you can to compost, get one of those little, the little barrels that you can like turn that doesn't take up much space. And then you could, if you needed to supplement the compost with store-bought fertilizer, then if there was a problem with the fertilizer in terms of contaminants, you would be using a lot less. You would be diluting the contaminants with your own compost which is organic, that should not be as contaminated. That's about, I can't comment on fish meal in the fertilizer as being an issue or not, because I haven't investigated it and I haven't gotten to the point where I have to grow my own food yet. When you see the live stream stop, that means I'm off in the hills. I have plans for that. Dorothy asks, hi, do you accept crypto? I tried to contact via email list on the site, but no one answered. I would resend. Julie's very good at answering emails. admin@nutritiondetective.com. We have not had too many people ask us about crypto yet. I would take it into consideration. Yeah, just email Julie, and I'll let Julie know to watch for that. Okay. Sentient Now says, my mom has psoriasis really bad head to toe. She has had it since she was a teenager. What causes this and what helps it? She has tried everything to no avail. Well, people think they've tried everything until they come to my work. And that's true. So let's just review some stuff. The detox priority pathways. Number 1 is the liver. The safest and best way for you to get rid of toxicity is from the liver putting the garbage into the bile, which then makes toxic bile, which then damages everything it touches. That goes through the bile ducts into your intestines, and you poop out. The research suggests that you poop out about 5% of bile a day eating a normal diet. Now, there are things that we talk about in the Love Your Liver program where you can increase the amount you excrete in a day by binding it. And everybody's going to be like, oh, let's do binders. And I saw somebody on Facebook talking about spirulina and chlorella as binders, and that is just disaster. Those are super high in vitamin A, so you're poisoning yourself to try to do this. This is the nonsense that's out there. Like Megaspore Biotic, which has spores in it that make vitamin A in your gut. So you're planting vitamin A manufacturing factories in your gut. Oh, but something happened with the production of that now. So now they're adding the vitamin A and carotenoids back into it because they think that that's necessary for you to heal your gut. Good luck with that. And if somebody comes and says, I felt better on it, tired people feel better on caffeine. I don't care that you felt better on it. You putting vitamin A making factories in your gut will end later in disaster. Where do you think that vitamin A goes? It goes straight up to your liver. So, liver first, liver to bile. What happens when you start leaking bile into your bloodstream? Cholestasis, which is what I fix, which is how I help people fix their chronic diseases. So the toxic bile leaks into your bloodstream. What is your next level of detox? Your kidneys. Okay? Your kidneys shouldn't have that much work to do if you're not leaking bile into your blood. They still do stuff, of course. But when you start overloading your kidneys with toxic bile, which shouldn't be in your blood to begin with, they start going bad. Now, let's just talk about an example of that. Grant had chronic kidney disease. He's the only person his nephrologists, his kidney doctors have ever seen recover completely from chronic kidney disease. All he did was he went to a low vitamin A diet that had adequate protein, had a decent amount of zinc from the beef he was eating. Oh, it had soluble fiber in it from the beans that he was eating. And then he got enough calories from the rice that he was eating, and he didn't add vitamin A with that. He doesn't have chronic kidney disease anymore. Because why? What does vitamin A toxicity and toxic bile cause? Well, remember that retinoic acid is a chemical peel, which means it basically dissolves skin. So if you stop putting in the skin dissolver into your system, you stop causing leaky bile. That's just one thing. There's other things that cause it. But he was also eating a relatively low-fat diet. There was just the fat in the beef. And I think he may have, I think he used a tablespoon of olive oil a day to cook the beef. But he was getting like lean beef and bison, which is generally pretty lean also. So he was not doing a high-fat diet. So all of you out there who think high-fat diets are everything, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's going to end badly. It may not have ended badly yet, and you may be thinking still in the honeymoon phase that you're doing great. It's going to end badly. Remember my name when it ends badly. Come back. I'll still be here doing the same stuff. The third level of detox priority, the last level, is the skin. Why is the skin the last priority? Well, the bile goes out through your poop. You're getting rid of, like, think about it this way. When the poop leaves your body, it's left your body, like it's gone. Some of you know, as you do this work, when you start pooping out a lot of bile, it seems to burn, right? It's like I tell people, bile, just think of bile as like hot lava that's trying to destroy everything it touches. And it can destroy a little bit, make your butt not feel so good. So then the kidneys, right? When you make urine, you pee it out. It's gone. Now, why are those two things important in terms of letting go of these things? Because if you detox, people will be like, well, your skin is your largest detox pathway. But what's the problem with that? When you push out toxins through your skin, do they leave? Do they just disappear into the air? No, they are stuck on your skin until they are washed off. So if they were irritating your body and your body didn't like them and your body's trying to get rid of them, but it's saying, well, the liver's not keeping up, the kidneys aren't keeping up, guess we got to push it out through the skin. Oh, well, it might damage our skin, but it's better to put it out in our skin than have it affect our brain and our heart and ruin other things. So we push it out on the skin. Then what do? You get skin conditions. Isn't it really weird that there's a common thread with skin conditions that they're often yellowish in color? They're very common, other than the redness, which is just the inflammation, but often skin conditions are kind of yellowish. What's yellow? Bile, vitamin A, bitter things. Have you ever noticed if you ever get into bitter things, berberine and other things, they're yellow. Nature loves using yellow for toxic compounds. So what causes it? She's toxic and she's mineral deficient. First thing I tend to think of when I see skin issues, like I mentioned earlier, I think zinc deficiency. I also tend to think copper toxicity. I would, if I was, it doesn't really matter, but in your mother's history, there was probably something that happened before all this psoriasis started. Whether it was, we're talking about adverse childhood events, there could have been some sort of mental, emotional, traumatic event. There could have been birth control pills. There could have been antibiotics. There could have been a pokey shot, an immune system shot. There could have been all sorts of things. There could have been a fad diet. We don't know, and it doesn't really matter. This is the magic of this work. I don't have to know people's history because it doesn't change what I do, other than them saying like, oh yeah, I know I'm super sensitive to zinc. I have to take super duper low doses. Okay, that's good to know. We don't have to do that. But what caused people the damage? I don't have to know that, which is completely at odds with other practitioners. They'll go into your history for an hour. I can't change the history. What did all those things in your history do? Damage your liver, cause you cholestasis, cause bile leak into your blood. So what do? We fix the cholestasis. I can't undo your medications. I can't undo your pokies that you got. I can't undo the fad diets that you did. We just fix it from where it is. We look at we know the toxicities, so we avoid the toxins that we know about. We help the body get rid of what it's already stored in the liver, and we give the body especially the minerals that it needs to protect itself and help get rid of the toxins that are stored by displacing them. That's what we do. So Simon says, I need methylation support supplements, B vitamins, B9, B12, TMG to not get suicidal depression. I am already on the Love Your Liver program. I suspect I might have the MTHFR mutation. What's your opinion on MTHFR? How do I put this? I don't care about it. I found it to be more of a red herring. Now, if you found that methylated B vitamins, what I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to go into my B vitamins as antidotes theory in public because too many people out here just can't understand it. So if you haven't read, Simon, if you go in the network and you search B vitamins antidote, you'll find the article. So if you need them right now, what they are doing, in my opinion, is you can go and find lots of evidence that B vitamins are used for antidotes as poisons out there if you go and you look hard enough. So for people who have to megadose B vitamins, they're toxic in some way. Did you know that B1 binds to aldehydes? So is it really that berry is a B1 deficiency, or is it just an aldehyde toxicity? And if you don't have enough B1 to bind to it, let's say you take in too many aldehydes and you deplete your B1 and you don't have enough B1 to bind to it, then the question becomes, it's like the chicken or the egg. Is it the aldehyde toxicity that's causing you the problems, or is it the B1 deficiency that's causing you the problems? Did you know taurine binds to aldehydes too? Did you know that B6 is actually an aldehyde? Pyridoxal 5-phosphate, pyridoxaldehyde, that's what it's short for. Pyridoxine is an alcohol. Do you think that vitamins are alcohols and aldehydes? You know that tocopherol is an alcohol? So what I tell people about B vitamins is, if you know you need them, if you know, like there is, when you take that B vitamin, you feel better. If you feel nothing or you feel worse from it, don't take it. Everything you take supplement-wise is going to put a load on your liver. And if you're taking supplements that are bad for your liver, even though you read on the internet that they're good for you, then you're really messing yourself up. So very specifically, I would say, first of all, I don't tend to use B complexes, because then you're just randomly taking a shotgun approach to it. Do I think that the B complex thing exists? No, I think it's garbage. Go and look at any two foods and try to find out that they have exactly the same ratio of all the B vitamins in them to each other. No, it doesn't. It's like people with their nonsense cod liver oil. We use the right balance of vitamin A to D in it. And then you go, well, which fish? Where do they live? What processing do you do? Wait, and then even the manufacturer will say there's variation between batches. And you go, well, wait, there's the perfect balance between them. And you go, this is just nonsense marketing BS. So B vitamins, there is no such thing, in my opinion, as a B complex that is like the standard. Like they made a B50 and it just so happened that they put in 50 of things and they picked different multiples of 10 to do them at. Lunacy. So what I tend to have people do is break down the B vitamins and try them individually to see which ones actually help and which ones aren't needed or make them feel worse. So, and methylation, I can go and show you. Let me see methylation. Let me go and look in the blog forum, the research forum on my old website. You believe I've written an article about methylation? Oh, epigenetics and methylation is negatively affected by poison/vitamin A. Gosh, what if there was research showing that vitamin A toxicity affected methylation? And let's say someone like yourself might be vitamin A toxic and you're finding that you have to take methylated B vitamins to not feel a certain way. Oh, do you know glyphosate affects methylation too? With the genetics of it. Here's the thing about the genetics of it. If you have quote unquote bad genetics, all it means is that you have to work harder. That's it. You do the same things. Nothing changes in the approach. You just need to work harder. And if people are doing the right things, they'll start to realize this, whether they have the genetic test or not. It's as simple as that. So, is it that, do I think that MTHFR doesn't affect anything? No, it just doesn't change. I don't like the victim mentality that the genetics and epigenetics tests put on people. Oh, woe is me. I have the mutation. How did your parents live? How did they survive? How did your genetics get here if they were so bad before people knew about genetics? Well, the world didn't used to be as toxic and a lot of people were doing just fine. And now that the world is more toxic and maybe people have done things in their history that have messed them up, now it seems that the genetic mutations show up as being more important. Genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger. Okay, environment is everything you do, including eating and supplements. It's the chemical environment inside your body as to whether these things are triggered or not. So maybe if people weren't vitamin A toxic, they wouldn't be worried about MTHFR mutations as much. I do have an article here. I actually did write this. I don't always remember all the stuff I've written. MTHFR mutations may speed the development of poison/vitamin A toxicity. Okay, so if you're more susceptible, again, it comes back to the same thing. If you're more susceptible to developing vitamin A toxicity, you just have to work harder. While you're fixing it, you may need to take more antidotes. Maybe. And what do we see with people on the program who seem to need lots of B vitamins at the start of it, and they stick with it and they do things right? And over time, they start to notice that they don't need the B vitamins anymore. And sometimes, if they pay a lot of attention, at some point, they notice that the B vitamins actually turned on them and are now making them feel worse. And then they stop them and then they feel better than they did before. And they don't need B vitamins anymore. It's pretty cool. But I don't take away when people come to the program and they have what I'm going to call crutches, because no one should have to take pharmaceutical orthomolecular doses of B vitamins to survive. No one should have to. If we think of the B vitamin as an antidote theory, the people who are the most poisoned in specific ways need more of certain B vitamins to antidote the poisoning. You know that B12 can be used as an antidote for hydrogen sulfide poisoning? Well, what if somebody ate too much sulfur in their diet because they listened to all these quackery detox experts on the internet? You need to get more and more sulfur so you can make glutathione, and take MSM and take DIM and do all these sulfur things and more eggs and yeah. No. Sulfur is not saving you. Sulfur is making you worse. And if you have too much sulfur, your gut bacteria can turn it into hydrogen sulfide, which in excess is a very well-known toxin. I poisoned myself with hydrogen sulfide by taking too much MSM. That's how I learned about all this. I've made the mistakes, folks. I read all about hydrogen sulfide and B12 as a remedy, and I actually did lots of B12 injections in one day, and I had an IV of B12. I believe I had about 100,000 micrograms of B12 in an IV the day after I injected something like 24,000 into myself. And after the intramuscular injections the first day, I was 70% better with the symptoms of hydrogen sulfide poisoning. And then by the next day after I got the IV, where afterwards I peed fruit punch color. That's how much B12 I had going through my system. I was peeing fruit punch color. I was 90% better. And I did another IV the next day. Not as much, but another one. And then I was 95% better. B vitamins as antidotes theory. If you want to read more about it, that's in the Love Your Liver Network. That's all I'm going to talk about it here today. But yeah, if you have to take pharmaceutical orthomolecular doses of B vitamins to feel good, it doesn't mean the reason you quote unquote need more of them is because you're more poisoned. Not a judgment. It's just a plausible mechanism in theory. And as you get less toxic, you will need less of them. And at some point, they may turn on you and make you feel worse. This is why it's good to know which one of them does what by taking them individually and not as a B complex. So, Apocalypse Miracles asks, is it true our bowel movements are supposed to float? Well, here's the first question we get to. Are humans supposed to crap on toilets? Is that our grand design? No. Our grand design is to squat like a catcher squat and take a dump on the ground or in a hole. So should we ever know it? And if you're crapping in water, you're poisoning your water supply. So that would be kind of silly, wouldn't it? So no, the idea that poop is supposed to float, if somebody is, generally I would say if poop is okay, so your poop might float very, very early on, like you poop and it's floating for a bit, maybe a minute or two, and then it sinks. That's normal if you see that. But the idea that pooping or poop should float is it mainly came from the vegan community, honestly, where they're eating so much fiber and so little protein that it floats. Or there's the good old steatorrhea where people have fat in their stool and fat floats. So basically, fat in your stool would be a bad sign. And when I look at most vegans, I just see bad signs of health. Very few people can thrive on a vegan diet. Most people absolutely cannot. Very few people can. Do I throw that out? No. If I have somebody who's like, I just feel awful on any type of meat I eat, I just feel terrible. Somebody else is going to go, it's hydrochloric acid, that's why. And I go, not necessarily. I mean, some people just don't feel good on it. Doc, it hurts when I do this. Then don't do that. Okay. So then we start figuring out what those people need to do. Now, people who are not eating red meat in terms of vitamin A detox and other things like that, getting the liver running, they're going to need more zinc. They're going to probably need maybe some taurine. They might need some B12, maybe not. And so we have to go, well, and they're going to have to seriously focus on getting enough protein, total protein. 50 grams total protein a day, absolute minimum from all sources. That's the basement level I want people at. 50 grams total from all sources, vegan or not. And many of you out there may not be getting this. I mean, that's half a pound of meat. If you just got your protein from meat, if that's all you ate, that's half a pound of meat right there, which to many of you is like, well, that's nothing. I eat that for lunch. Okay, cool. You're not who I'm talking to here. But like vegans, do you know how many beans you have to eat to get 50 grams of protein? Like, that's a lot. And if you don't get enough protein, you will eventually have a liver injury and you will leak bile into your blood. So 50 grams minimum total protein in a day from all sources is the absolute basement level. No, I'm not telling you how to count your protein. You're an adult, look it up. Maggie Caspin asks, hi, Dr. Smith, could you talk about sleep apnea, please? Thanks. I don't want to be too blunt on this, but sleep apnea, people need to lose weight. And I'm not accusing you personally of this, but the first thing you need to do for sleep apnea is lose weight for anybody. Generally, if that's an issue at all, that's the first thing that has to happen. Next thing is don't sleep on your back. Your tongue falls in the back of your throat. And if you have excess weight, you have the, what do they call it? It's like the fat collar theory, where your throat fat is actually pushing on your breathing apparatus, your breathing tubes, and then you start, right? If you have sinus problems and you can't breathe through your nose, which then makes you breathe through your mouth, you're toxic and nutrient deficient. You want to know the only time I snore? After I've been drinking alcohol. Oh, you mean I've been poisoning myself and I start snoring and I'm not breathing as well. So if you're drinking alcohol, get rid of that. Gosh, does drinking alcohol and overweight tend to go together? Yeah, it does. If you haven't seen my video on YouTube about the connections between vitamin A and obesity, you should watch it. So generally, the most, and if you want to get help losing weight, I highly suggest Noom, which is an app for your phone. I used Noom to lose 30 pounds. I thought it was great. My problem was I just ate too damn much. But Noom is better at helping than just that. I just ate too damn much. I was always known as a kid from eating too much. There's a code. I'll type it in the chat for a discount. At least it worked. Noom 40, Noom 40. Get you $40 off. Highly suggested. It helps with the psychology of your personal weight problems. And you can use whatever foods you want. That's what I liked about it. I could use whatever I did. You do track your food, you do weigh yourself daily, and you go through the psychology lessons of it. Highly suggested. So those are the things that I would start with, would be toxicity, getting your minerals right, not sleeping on your back, losing weight, don't drink alcohol. Funny thing that retinol is an alcohol. Weird. But yeah, that's what I would do. That's where I'd start. And I'm going to tell you, I have a lot of people who are like, well, I have sleep apnea. My husband has sleep apnea and I have sleep apnea and we're not overweight. And I'm like, yeah, I don't say this to them, but I'm thinking, yeah, you are. People need to really, and like I said, I'm not saying this about anyone in particular. People need to really, we are so used to seeing fat people around us that our standards for what is fat are way messed up. If you look at height and weight charts back from the 1950s or the 1930s, we are huge. Huge. Now, if you're big and you're like 10 to 15% body fat as a man, then you're fine. But you start pushing over 15% body fat and you're big, you're overweight. I'm not going to get into the stuff for women, but ladies, I'm divorced and I'm on dating apps, and the situation with women, ladies, you got to work on this for your health. For your health. There is no such thing as healthy at any weight. That is complete dog shit. And yeah, I'm going to cuss on it. There is no healthy at any weight. That is just horse shit. If you're copper toxic, copper's estrogenic, you're going to put on weight easier. If you're vitamin A toxic, I have a whole video on how vitamin A is connected to overweight. If you're toxic, it's going to be very, very difficult to lose weight. So maybe you want to get in the Love Your Liver program and also work with me on your good minerals to counteract things like copper and vitamin A, which zinc and molybdenum and selenium are quite good at. And I test for all that and I help you get the right dose for you. And we tend to clean up the diet as part of it, which helps. We have some people, especially women, who just start losing a lot of weight on the program. Depends on how it acts in you. Me, I had been detoxing for like 3 years and I hadn't really started losing weight. And I was kind of, okay, well, I wonder why. I wonder when it's going to happen. I was thinking it's going to happen at some point. I wonder when it's going to happen. And I just finally decided, especially after the divorce, that I was going to finally take action and really look at what I had been eating. And I realized that I simply ate too damn much. I mean, you can't get around that. Drinking calories. I was just thinking about this the other day. You want to lose weight? Here's the 3 things you should do first. Stop drinking alcohol. Stop drinking anything with calories in it. And fix your meals so you stop snacking. Some people could get to the weight they want to be at just with those 3 things. Stop snacking, stop alcohol, stop drinking anything with calories in it, which basically means water. Don't drink any artificial sweeteners or stevia or whatever. I have articles in the Love Your Liver Network that all of those cause liver injury. You do not need sweet liquids. Stop it. So, but again, that's not directed at anybody in particular. This is a society thing. I mean, seriously. I'm not saying men are any better. I'm really not. I used to be, 30 pounds heavier than I was now. I was like 215 pounds. Now I'm 188-ish. I've been gaining a little weight lately because I've been lifting hard and eating a little more. And it's going in the right places. So I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, a lot of people, our standards for what is overweight are completely skewed. When you look at everybody and everybody looks a certain way, that becomes normal. And so then you think, well, I'm normal. That can't be bad. But sleep apnea, here, wait, let's just go look. Sleep apnea epidemic. What is NAMD? NAMD. Well, I'm looking here and it says the Journal of Medicine. Are we having a sleep apnea epidemic? I think the last major count was like, used to be what, 2/3 of America, a third of America was obese and 2/3 were overweight. And that's probably higher now. Funny that sleep apnea would go along with it. Don't let anybody tell you that sleep apnea is not connected to overweight. It's completely connected to overweight. That's just the way it is. And toxicity contributes to overweight, and mineral deficiencies contribute to overweight, and too much fat. I love when people are like, it's fat that's made everybody fat. Too much fat in their diet. And other people are going, it's too much carbs that have made people fat. And I'm like, if you actually look at the research, Americans are eating more of both of them. Weird coincidence, right? We're just eating too damn much. And yes, I was one of those people. So I gotta get going. Real quick, Arnav asks, hi, Dr. Smith, I am from the Love Your Liver program. Why am I having dried skin after detoxing a lot of vitamin A? Probably zinc deficiency as part of it. That's where I'd start. If I was consulting with somebody and I had their tests, this is fairly easy to address. And sometimes it's just something you gotta. Arnab, I saw your labs in the Love Your Liver program, and yes, your vitamin A came way down. That doesn't mean there's not other toxicities going on. Like whenever I see kids with acne, yeah, their zinc is low, and they've also got copper toxicity. So we don't know where those things are, and you're not an active like testing and consultation client of mine. So I'm not tracking your labs and giving you course corrections as we go. There's also, I know where you live, there's not a lot of beef to be had, or that's kind of accepted to be eating, which means there could be taurine deficiencies, which means there could be more zinc deficiencies or you need to get more from food. There could be all sorts of stuff going on. This is why when I tell people who decide to do all this without working with me, this is not a game. But yeah, zinc deficiency and skin stuff absolutely goes together. But then I'm just going to, since I talked about zinc so much today, I'm going to say, is zinc toxicity a legitimate thing? Yes, absolutely. Can you take too much zinc? Yes, you absolutely can. So don't be a freaking idiot. All of the research talking about zinc toxicity, people were taking 100 milligrams or more a day of actual zinc. I can't find a zinc toxicity study where somebody was taking less than 100 milligrams a day. Does that mean you should go out and take 100 milligrams a day? Did I just give you enough rope to hang yourself with? Maybe if you want to go do that. Did I tell anybody to take 100 milligrams of zinc a day? No, I'm saying the toxicity in the research, every single case study I've seen has been well over 100 milligrams a day. 220 milligrams a day is a common one for people taking zinc sulfate, which is just stupid because it's zinc toxicity and sulfur. But what about Epsom salts, magnesium sulfate? I don't recommend those either. But you need sulfur to make glutathione. Do you know how much sulfur you have? Like, let me give you an example of sulfur on a hair test. So I don't know why Trace Elements measures sulfur because nobody's figured out how to use it. But anyway, Trace Elements measures sulfur on a hair test. So calcium in the body. These are in the units that Trace Elements is in, which is milligram percents. It's basically like parts per million divided by 10, I believe. So that's just the units that they use. It makes for nice numbers. But so we're just looking at these numbers relative to each other. Calcium is supposed to be in the 40s, 40. Sulfur on hair tests is typically in the 4,000s, 100 times as much. I've never seen anybody deficient in sulfur on a hair test. Not that I even know what that would do. Sulfur deficiency is not your problem. Oh, wait. Let me see. I think I have an article on this. This is the last thing I just want to find. I don't know if I ever wrote on this. No, I think it's an article in the Love Your Liver program. I think I put it in there, or maybe in the Advanced Detox program. I think it's in the Advanced Detox program where I talk about how vitamin A messes up your sulfate pathways and your sulfite pathways, and vitamin A messes up your sulfur detox pathways. Weird that vitamin A would mess up methylation pathways and sulfur and sulfate. We have people who are tired drinking more coffee. We have people who are saying my detox doesn't work and they take more sulfur because they think that's the limiting factor. You will get much further with your health by actually learning what the real toxins are, which you've been completely misinformed about in the past because they want you toxic and dead. So they tell you that toxins are good and the things that are good for you are bad or not necessary. Just eat food for your zinc. Doesn't work. So, want to add one more thing before I go. There's a week left before July 1st. July 1st, the price of the Love Your Liver program, for those of you who have not joined, let me say this. For those of you who have joined already or who have become a member through being a client of mine, a testing and consultation package client of mine, you have nothing to worry about. You are grandfathered in. So what you're listening to right now, what I'm talking about is you want to sign up before the end of the month because the price goes up and it becomes a yearly subscription basis. Okay. So the price is going up and you're going to have to pay every year. Right now, it's a one-time payment for lifetime access. It's a much better deal. So that price goes up July 1st. For those of you who are hemming and hawing and haven't joined yet, now's the time. But yeah, like I said, anybody who's in it before July 1st, you're in it for good. If you're already in it, you're grandfathered, and if you join before July 1st, you've got the lifetime thing. After July 1st, it's a yearly thing. Okay? So anyway, that's all I have for today. Hope to see some of you guys in the Love Your Liver network so you can get, I mean, just think of how much information I give here and then think of what I have in the network. People come in the network and they're like, they're used to crappy, like electronic information products. That is not what the Love Your Liver area is, besides the fact that you have basically a mini social network of over 1,200 people who are all working towards the same goal. And you have me ruling it with an iron fist, not allowing the BS that happens on Facebook, all that toxic behavior garbage. We don't have much of it ever happen in the Love Your Liver program. But when it does happen, I'll tell you right now, I rule with an iron fist. I do not tolerate anyone coming in and trying to change the message or being nasty. So it stays very nice. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed it. I will see you next week. Don't be a vampire. Don't eat liver. Don't be a cultist. Don't listen to the copper charlatans poisoning you. You know how they say, you know what they say I am? I'm misinformation. Do you know that that's the argument of losers? It is. There's no factual argument there. Just saying I'm promoting misinformation when I post study after study after study with logic after logic after logic with people's anecdotes and testimonials, one after another. That's not misinformation. They have no argument. So anyway, have a great weekend. Bye now.